Forget about the money. What do I mean by that? My name's Carolyn Willman, and I've been blessed with maintaining Helene Hadzel's library. And she was famous for winning every prize she ever desired, including a fully furnished home. Now, she was a master at the law of attraction. And tonight we're going to talk about why you don't need money to make your dreams come true, just like Helene did back in the 60s. I get hate mail sometimes because she didn't win the lottery, but Texas didn't have the lottery until 1992. And by then she'd won everything she ever wanted. So why did she need to win the lottery? Like she already had it all. And that's why I want you to forget about the money. I did a video recently on TikTok and I started it with why you aren't winning the lottery. And oh my goodness, it viraled and I had so many hate comments because people were upset that one, I hadn't won the Powerball, but it's not what I've been focusing on. If I'm not focusing on it, I'm not going to get it. And second of all, I don't need the Powerball to make my dreams a reality because I'm focusing on the end result and I'm getting that end result. So again, why do I need the Powerball if I can do what Helene did? And so can you. She even says that in her book. What I can do, you can do and more. She specifically teaches that. She wants you to understand that she wasn't some mystical person that had all these abilities that you can't replicate. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Especially at this time of year, we have a lot going on. And then in the new year, everybody wants to make their 2024, a big banger year. And this is actually a good time to start putting those ideas in place to see what you want to have for the next year. So now you have some time to ruminate on it and give yourself that space. So by the time the year turns over, you have a good idea of what you want to focus on for the following year. And of course, it's going to be different for everybody. And that's part of the point. I'm also known as the contest queen and I teach people how to win. And one of the things I always tell people is you have to make it your hobby. You have to make it your own because people say, well, what site do you like? And I said, well, it doesn't matter what I like. What do you like? It's the exact same concept. You are designing your life and your life is going to be different than my life. And isn't that the beauty of it? You get to decide. You get to orchestrate what you want to appear and where you want to direct your energy. And that's why I find it so fascinating when I get the hate messages because it actually has nothing to do with me. If you've ever read the 4 Agreements, you know that number 2 is don't take anything personally. Well, we'll start right off. Actually, I'll put up a comment. Usually I leave comments to the end, but Caroline is an Australian counterpart. And she says, I want to win enough prizes to get me to the Las Vegas sweepstakes convention. And I'm actually positive she will, because that's where she's directing her energy. So let's talk about what I stated in that viral video. And this is a great platform to expand upon that because I only have 60 seconds when I'm doing those videos for TikTok's shorts and reels. Most people look at their life, pick what they want and say, okay, I need this amount of money for that. So where can I get a large amount of money? And they say, okay, I can win the lottery and then all my problems will be solved. That is not the way to go about it. You are focusing on the how. If you have ever heard of any Mike Dooley's work, he was famous for being in The Secret, but he's written, I think, 17 books. He just did a great interview on Next Level Soul podcast. I highly recommend that channel. And you can watch that particular video. And he is famous for repeating the how is the domain of the universe. So you just focus on the end result and you have no idea how it will come about. And it doesn't matter how it will come about if you end up at the end result. Correct? And he, a long time ago, told the story of how he got his business going when he went to produce a program. He was supposed to be doing it with somebody because he was too scared to do it on his own. They had everything all set up. At the last second, that person canceled. He ended up doing it on his own anyway. Right? So you don't need the money. He ended up doing what he wanted to anyway. Another story, and I wish I could remember the teacher that I heard this from to give them credit, but they were teaching a seminar and people were talking about this exact subject. I need the money because XYZ. And he or she was polling students and saying, okay, what is your dream? What do you need? And why do you need the money? One person stood up and said their dream was to have this animal sanctuary. They had the plans drawn up. They had all this, but they needed the money because they needed the land. And that's why they had to have the money. And the teacher said, no, you don't need the money. What do you need? And they said, but I need the land, so I need the money. And the teacher kept saying, no, you don't need the money. What do you need? They were doing this in circles. And finally, they understood and they said, okay, I just need land. And then someone else in the classroom put up their hand and said, I just inherited 10 acres of land near where you want to build this sanctuary. And I have no use for the land. And I don't really want to sell it. Can I donate it to your charity? And then they could use the land for the animal sanctuary. And then this person would get a write-off on their land because they're using it for charitable purposes. And this person now has the land. So the teacher goes, okay, now you have the land. What do you need next? And the person stood there gobsmacked because in 10 minutes, they had manifested 10 acres of land that they kept insisting they needed the money for. And they had no idea that, again, how it could happen, but someone just happened to be sitting there. When you focus on the end result, synchronicities start to occur like that. So now they had the land, and that argument was immediately removed from their insistence on where they were wanting to go with the sanctuary. So that's why you need to, in one way, now some things, we will get money, but also it's people aren't specific. And we're going to go through Helene's spec because one of them is select it, but it should also be specific. Select it and be specific. Jack Canfield used to teach a class and someone would say, he'd say, what are your goals? And someone would say, I want more money. So he'd reach into his pocket, pull out a quarter, toss it over to them. And I go, what's this? And he goes, more money. And they go, I want more than that. And he goes, well, then you have to be specific because you just asked for more money and you now have more money. They manifested and got exactly what they asked for, more money. They weren't specific. So you have to be very specific in what you ask for. Helene, in one of her books, wanted to win a car and she decided she wanted it to be white with blue interior. Or was it the other way around? And she won a truck instead. And she's like, She was a little annoyed that it didn't manifest exactly the way she wanted it. So she said she had money. She had 4 sweepstakes goals for that year. And she decided that one of them was a car and one of them was money. She wanted to win some money. So she decided that truck was actually the money because she sold it and took the money. So she said, well, that win was actually the money. I'm still out to win that car. Right? So she was very specific on what she wanted. Okay. So this is why a lot of people aren't winning the lottery. because they think the money is the answer to all of their problems. The other thing that most people don't realize is that 73% of all lottery winners lose their money within 5 years, or they are worse off, or sometimes something devastating happens to them because of the money. Money's energy. Everything's energy. So money is also energy. Now think about an enormous amount of money, like an enormous amount of energy. If you suddenly got hit by lightning, could your nervous system handle it? That's probably not. And that's why 73% of all lottery winners lose their winnings, because it also exacerbates the archetypes in us on all levels. So, for example, if you are a codependent and get your self-esteem from making everybody else happy, you are going to give that money away to everybody very, very quickly, so then they will appreciate you. Or if you're an addict, well, you could see how that could go astray very quickly, gambling, drinking, etc. It could just get out of hand very quickly, and the money again is gone. If you have an invisible archetype, the invisible, say, child, and you want to be seen, you could spend that money on all kinds of flashy things so you'd be seen, and then again, all the money's gone. So winning the lottery isn't necessarily the best idea when you want to reach a goal. So what you should be doing is focusing on the end result, taking steps towards that goal, and then watching the path unfold. Because most people think, life, I'm going to use a pen, you're going to do this. It's going to be this nice, even path. No, it goes like this, and twists and turns and back arounds and ups and downs, and then you get to, yeah. Right? Anthony Mandel had a great video on that, and I tried to find it to reshare it, and I could not find it. And he hasn't done some of his positive thought videos in a long time, but he has a great archive on YouTube. I highly recommend. I'm going to be tagging all these creators in the comments because they're so fantastic on their messaging. And I think that's another reason it's good to read a lot and listen to a lot of different sources, because sometimes you need to hear. Dr. Joseph Murphy said this. Helene said to him, "Murphy, why do you keep repeating your stories in your books?" And he said, "Sometimes people have to hear something 42 times before they get it." But I don't think it's necessarily 42 times from the same person. I think it's an almost identical message from different places. Sometimes it's the timing of when you hear it. It's the exact wording that person used. Maybe they might use slightly different wording, just enough to make it click for you. Right? So it's good to read a lot of different teachers or listen to a lot of different teachers. I was an avid reader. I've gotten so busy, I'm only reading a little bit before bed now. I do a lot of podcasts and Audible, which I'm going to throw in a shameless plug right here. Wrong side. In Contact with Other Realms is now on Audible. So this book's on Audible. This one's on Audible. This one will be on Audible next year. Yay. And this one was just turned into Spanish, and I just ordered that one in Spanish. So it will be published in Spanish early next year. So it's very exciting that I'm converting all this work into different formats that Helene was never even able to. So it's very exciting. And there's another one. So I was looking for a translator. I needed to translate the books, and I was getting quotes, and they were very expensive. And out of the blue, someone said, "Why don't you check Fiverr?" And I went, "Good idea." And I found a gentleman on there with a lot of great reviews, and I thought, okay, I'll trust him. And I gave him the book. He did an excellent job because he had to do the website, the cover, and the book. And then I hired him to do some other articles, translating them into Spanish, because there was a missing chapter from the Name It and Claim It game, which she had put in her very first edition, but it didn't appear in any of the subsequent editions. And so I didn't know it was missing until long after I had republished. And not to be a gatekeeper, I put it up for free on my website. However, I also needed it translated into Spanish because I wasn't going to gatekeep from the other languages either. So I had that translated. But he appeared when I needed it. I didn't. So that's the how I was focusing on. I need this book translated into Spanish with a reliable source at a reasonable price. And I got it. So I think that's what you need to be focusing on. So forget about the money. Now, the money may show up. So for example, I needed all new computer equipment. My computer was starting to get a little bit old. I needed a new webcam. I needed lights. I needed a backdrop. I got a new chair. I got a new monitor that's on the side. That took money. And I was focusing on the end result. And I had a very good month with the book sales. And I took that money and I bought all the new equipment. And so then I can now teach even better. So it's a circulation of funds, because these tools make my job easier to teach you and to share the message that I have. And I think the quality is elevated. And if you start watching my videos, I haven't done them for a long time here, but if you go back into my archives, from the ones that I recorded from Contest Queen that I moved over here, they were the manifestation teachers that I had interviewed over there before I had started this channel. You'll see I had gone through all kinds of iterations. I had ones where I had to have a headset in. I used to squish myself up against my bookshelf because my office is very small. I tried different lights. Sometimes I look like I have a halo because the overhead light is. One time I had a rickety table that I had all my stuff on, and every time I would touch it, the camera would shake. But I didn't stop teaching. And that's the point. You, as Helene said in the beginning of her book, pay no mind if you're doing it perfectly, just begin. And then just keep going. The way will be shown and you will improve as you go. Right? So, yeah. Oh, here's a good question. Okay, so I hadn't got to that part, but why don't we talk about it? So we have here, Cholo is asking, how many times do you visualize for a goal? So let's start with spec, and that's the P part. That sounds terrible. Let's start with S for select it. One of these days, I'm going to learn how to do the banners and things to come in and, have like fancy slides like some of these other teachers do. But one thing at a time. Again, you go from where you are and then you improve your skill sets, you improve your equipment, you improve like anything you're doing in life. S is selected. And you want to be specific when you're selecting it. Okay? My goal next year is to publish, I have at least 6 books listed. I would like to do 12, but I learned that in August, I said I wanted to publish 5 books by the end of the year. I've done 4 so far. I'm kind of cutting it close for 5. I don't know if I'll quite make it. It's a little bit hectic with all the things on my plate, especially with the Christmas season upon us. So I'm a little hesitant to say I want to publish 12 books next year because I know that is a lot of work. I will comfortably be saying 6, but I think it'll fall actually somewhere between 6 and 12 next year. Now that is a lot because normally in the past, I've published 1 book every year or 2 years because I did it at a really even, slow pace with a lot of other things. And now I'm ramping everything up exponentially, which makes it exciting. So that's the goal that I'm focusing on. And I do have help from other people. I have an audio producer helping me do the Audible books. I can't do that alone. I have a translator that I've hired to put the books into Spanish. And then I have a friend who's editing the translations for me because I don't speak Spanish. I'm not fluent in that language. And then I'm doing all the layout. So I've taken a lot of the pieces off of that. So it is possible to do more books faster when you have help doing so. So we'll see. Because, we're not manifesting in a vacuum. That's the other thing. People say, well, I pulled it up by my bootstraps and I did it all by myself. No, you didn't. Everybody has help. No man is an island unto themselves. I can't take any credit for this on my own. Helene wrote the books. I'm doing all the modern technology because she knew that it was going to die with her if she didn't hand it off to someone that had skill sets she didn't have. She was not technically savvy at all. I talked to her son Dyke every other day. He was going over to help her with the computer. She'd lost a file. She did this. You should see the last book that I had. There was only one book that was digitized, and it was terrible. She used to edit with the space bar and the return key. And then if she wanted to add something, she would just plunk it wherever she could the book. She had no sense of layout or I had to move chapters. I had to switch things around. God bless her. But she had she was not technically savvy. So she handed it off to someone that could. And I rely on other people to help me. Like, for example, I've given the Spanish edition to several people that love Helene and also are fluent in Spanish. And they're talking about her new book. Her book is now in Spanish for me because I can't do it. I can put the Spanish translation. I can Google Translate. I've been going there a lot. I don't even know if it's accurate. I just pray it is, and I don't sound too stupid. Caroline says, remember your health. Actually, I am, because we went to Mexico for a wedding, and I said, that's it. We ate way too much, drank way too much, had way too much fun, lots of sun. I'm still tanned. Oh my God, I miss Mexico already. It's so cold here. I know Caroline's in Australia. It's heading into summer there. We are heading smack into winter, and it is not fun. It was snowing the last couple of days. Not a lot, but enough to make me not happy. But I went right back on to watching everything I eat. Lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, lots of protein. It's already coming off. And I'm almost to the gym every day. Almost. I missed today because I slept in. Sleep's also very important. But yeah, I'm very conscientious of that. Because I don't do well with burnouts. I like naps. So you don't have to worry about me in that arena. Actually, I have a cup of hot water here. Look at that. So professional here. Words for winning. So sometimes I just drink hot water because I like the heat, and I want to increase my water intake. So there you go, Caroline. And this one I got when I was in Boulder at the Boulder Dashab tea house. If anybody's been to Boulder, this is a very famous tea house. They apparently got it, I think it was in Tibet. They took the whole place apart, stone by stone and board by board, brought it over to Boulder and reassembled it, kind of like a Lego kit. Kind of crazy. Anyway, you need to be specific. What do you want? And this is where journaling comes in very well. If you're a little bit unsure, well, I'd like a better job. Okay, what kind of better job? Well, let's start down. And what do I like about the job I have? What don't I like? When you know what you don't like, then you can say, well, what's the converse? So, for example, if you like to travel, you say, okay, I want to travel more. Well, if you went to a travel agency and just sat down and said, okay, I want to go on a trip, and they go, great, where? And you go, I don't know. And they're like, all right. They have no idea what to give you. They could send you down to the corner store. That might be their idea of travel. So you start figuring out, well, do you like hot or cold? Oh, I prefer the heat. Okay, so now we're looking at things maybe closer to the equator or on the other side of the world when the seasons are reversed. Do you like to camp or do you like a 5-star hotel? Oh, I prefer a 5-star hotel. Do you want to be in a city or do you want to be somewhere remote? Do you want to go to an island? Do you like water sport? You know what I mean? You narrow it down. What do you want? It's the same thing. So if you say you want a new job or you want a partner, what qualities do you like? What don't you want? And when you know what you don't want, it'll help you clarify what you do want. And then write those out. Now you don't have to actually physically write. Some people don't like that. You can use the recorder, the voice recorder on your cell phone. You can type it out into the computer. You can use the notes app on your phone to write things down. You don't have to use, the old-fashioned pen and paper or an actual journal if you don't want to. By the way, my journal tip is you can get some really beautiful journals at the dollar store. I have found many there. And I use them to give away as part of some of my prize packs when I do prizes, because I am, again, also the contest queen. I want to start doing prizing on these live streams in 2024. There's a goal. Give away stuff. So you need to be specific. Okay, so now I'm going to assume, Cholo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. That you are already specific and know exactly what your goal is. Now, Helene, it's select it, project it. So the projection is up here. You're going to visualize it. You might, again, journal on the description. You might find some pictures that represent it. You might be artistic and draw or paint, right? There's all manner of projection. But you see it in your mind's eye. You can sit and close your eyes when you meditate, and you can see it. They always talk in the Silva method, which I'm learning to become an instructor, the mind map, which is 20 degrees. Oh, it's hard to do it when I'm facing right forward. But when you close your eyes, you're looking, it's almost like you're looking out of your third eye here, 20 degrees up. I hope. Can I do that sideways? I don't know if this is okay. Now I can't see the camera, so I'm hoping this is working. But you want to kind of look like right here from your, it's almost like you're looking out of the middle of your head when you close your eyes, and you kind of put a screen there. And that's where you visualize. You can do like a little mind, they call them mind movies. Jose wasn't the only one to ever talk about that. So that's what you visualize. And then, expect it is down here where you feel it. So you feel like you got that new job. You can feel walking into the office. You can smell the coffee as you pass the room, or you're working from home. They send you a new computer. You can feel yourself. Oh, the package is heavy, and you're opening. You can see yourself opening the box, and you feel the cardboard and that new laptop smell. I know it actually does have a smell. It's kind of crazy. I loved it when I got my new laptop. And you can visualize that, and you can see yourself setting it up and plugging everything in and booting it up, and you can just feel that excitement of the new role and the new position and things like that. That's where you give it. So she says expect it, but she also says in her book project energy to it. I think what she actually meant was or project towards it. What she meant was project energy to it. So the E is almost for energy. And she would do it a few times a day whenever it came to mind. And she used to do the 3x5 technique, where she would take a little card and just put one word for each goal. So when she was doing her sweepstaking, the one year she said, I want to win. She wanted a microwave. It was back in the day. They were big. a car, money, and a trip to Hawaii. Not just any trip, specifically a trip to Hawaii. So those are the 4 things that she wanted to learn. And she wrote on a 3x5 card, just microwave, car, money, Hawaii. So she knew specific. She didn't have to go into more detail. And she made like 3 or 4 of those cards, and she put them up like in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the car, like where near her desk, wherever she'd see them all the time. And she could, oh yeah, I need to give those energy. And interestingly enough, Billy Connolly, the comedian, you would never think that he would be giving the best manifestation advice, but he knew someone, I think it was a teacher, told him to write out his goals like that on a business sized card, business card sized card. And he wrote his 3, life goals on it, and he tucked it into his wallet. So every time he opened his wallet to pay for something, he wouldn't even see all the goals. He would just see the top one, the start of the top one, because it was kind of in the wallet. And he'd be like, oh yeah. And he would give it energy every time he went to pay for something. And it was in his wallet. He didn't even have to see all 3 of them. He just knew what they were. And he gave them energy, which is kind of cool. So it's only when it comes to mind. You don't have to be obsessed about it. And remember, the subconscious doesn't think in the sense of past, present, and future. It only thinks of everything is happening now. Your conscious understands the difference between the past and the present and the future, but your subconscious doesn't. When you're thinking of something, it thinks it's happening right now. They've done studies where they have people, visualize that they're sitting in a chair in an auditorium, and they have people close their eyes and visualize that they're walking out onto a plank over a canyon, and their heart rates go up. They start breathing. Their breathing becomes erratic because they're terrified that they're going to fall into. They're in a chair in an auditorium. Or the Jack Canfield does another one where I think he's not the only teacher to do this. Or you imagine a plate of lemons, and you can smell the lemons, and you can touch the rind, and then you're going to put it to your mouth, and you start salivating, and you start to kind of pucker up. There's no lemons in front of you. It's in your imagination. Now, if those 2 things happen when you're just sitting there visualizing, it goes to pass, or it only makes sense that if you do it with your goals, your body's going to react the same. So when you're visualizing your goals, just for a few moments, think, oh yeah, I wonder what time they want me to start in the morning, because I like to start at 8:30. Yeah, 8:30 is going to be a good time to start in the morning. Or think of, if you want to go on a trip, do I want to go to this country during this particular season? Do I want to go when they have a big festival? Or do I want to go in the off season? Just imagine whatever you want. One of the things I've been visualizing and putting energy towards is what it's going to be like when I hit number 1 on Amazon for the books. What happens how do I feel? I can see the numbers. I can visualize the bestseller page. I can feel it. I'm getting excited right now, just sitting here already. My heart's going like, right? And I'm not doing anything. I'm just talking to you over a cup of, well, in this case, hot water. Usually it's tea. Oh, this is a good tip. Caroline says she focuses on the word focus. Yes, be specific. Be more specific. Again, because if you're saying I want more money in my life, you might walk along the street tomorrow and find a dime. The universe just gave you more money. You're like, no, I want more than that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Oh, Benny, he downloaded In Contact yesterday. I look forward to listening to it. I hope you enjoy it. I had a lot of fun recording it. And I will say, what's interesting about Helene is she knew that people weren't ready to hear about her metaphysical adventures in the 60s and the 70s. So when she wrote In Contact with the Name It and Claim It game, she took all her metaphysical lessons and wrapped them in stories under the guise of winning. Now, what's interesting is I couldn't tell you how many times I edited that book, but when I read it, I have a story for you. When I read it on Audible, some of her lessons really stood out to me and hit me differently than when I had just, read it with my eyes and silently in my head. It was amazing to speak it out loud. And something Helene never talked about, when you're visualizing your ideas and feeling them, so the P and the E in spec, speak them out loud as if you're talking to a friend. I can hardly wait till I start my new job. It's going to be amazing. I can see myself. They're going to give me the corner office. I'm going to have all the best equipment. Talk about it, or talk about it in the past tense. They do this in scripting exercises. I remember the day that I started that new job. Oh my gosh. It was so fun because it happened to be Susan's birthday in the office, and they had cake, but it actually felt like it was cake for me. But because I started, but it just happened to be her birthday, and they had cake in the office. And my new boss was amazing. He took me out to lunch the first day, and there was a great little Thai restaurant around the corner, which I ended up frequenting all the time. You can talk about it as if it happened. Oh, I remember our first Christmas in that house. I was so good. Everybody came over. Finally, I had a house big enough, room for everybody. Or, I remember our first date. Do you remember how we went out for chicken wings and they accidentally gave us hot sauce and we ended up drinking way too many beers to cool ourselves off? Wasn't that funny? You can do it in the past tense, because then you're remembering something. There's all kinds of different scripting exercises. Andrew Kapp, who I interviewed, did a book called I hope I get the title right, The Last Law of Attraction Book You'll Ever Need to Read. Oh, I hope I got his title right. It's very good. It's short. But he gives some great exercises in there. I must get him back on the show because I read his next book, but I ended up publishing so many books I didn't have time to interview anybody. He does some great scripting. So you want to do those for P and E. So whenever you give it energy, listen, the clue to what we're doing is in the title of Helene's book. It's called The Name It and Claim It game. This is a game. Don't be so serious. Have fun with it, right? You want to visualize your goals. Play with it. It is fun. Can you feel the energy when I'm saying it's a game? If we were going to sit down, remember there's a board game called The Game of Life, right? I wonder where someone got that idea. Imagine this is a game of life. And even Shakespeare said it, all the world's a stage and we are merely players. This is a performance. What do you want the actors to look like? Who's going to come in off stage to the next scene? You know what I mean? Have fun with it. Don't be so serious. Even Helene says in her book, she needs to be a little silly sometimes, and sometimes she's a little sermon-y, and sometimes she's fun, but she always gets her message across. And then there's the C, which is collect it. Now, everyone thinks that collect it would be easy, but if you can't even take a compliment, I heard this from the Manifestation Chica, and I apologize, I can't remember her name. Saw her on TikTok, love my TikTok. She said, if you can't even receive a compliment, how are you going to receive your manifestations? Somebody says, wow, you look great today. And you go, this old thing? No, say, thank you. I couldn't help myself. I had to buy this sweater in the store because it just made me feel so good. Oh, okay. And smile when you say it. Oh, I need to go back. I got off track. I feel like Billy Connolly. we were talking about him. I saw him live once, and he did this amazing thing. He has a skill set which was phenomenal. I watched him in awe, where he started a story and went off tangent, and then took the story and kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And then he came back 25 minutes later to where he started. I was like, how did he do that? That was so good. Anyway, when I was reading the books aloud, there's a story in the Name It and Claim It game about a woman who wants to go on a cruise. She had a neighbor who went on a cruise. And remember, cruising wasn't as big back then in the 70s as it is now. She had a neighbor who went on a cruise to the Bahamas, and she thought to herself, I would love to go on a cruise to the Bahamas. Her husband wasn't interested. It wasn't in the family budget. She didn't sweepstakes like Helene. She thought, how am I going to go on this cruise? Helene said, don't worry about that. Just focus the end result. Focus, just see yourself on the cruise. Just focus on the cruise. I'm on a cruise to the Bahamas. I'm enjoying this cruise to the Bahamas. I'm enjoying all the buffet. I'm enjoying the shows. I'm enjoying the ports. I'm enjoying that. Just focus on being on the cruise. Now, I've never been on a cruise. So it was also in my kind of radar. One day I will go on a cruise. But it wasn't a main focus. It was just kind of there in the background. And then this woman goes to art class, and she's talking to one of her classmates, and the woman also sells cosmetics. And they had a sales contest, and the winner would win a cruise to the Bahamas. And she said, oh, I've always dreamed of going. You have the best time. I hope it's everything that you've ever dreamed of. Congratulations on winning this cruise. 2 days before she was supposed to go on this cruise, she gets a phone call from her classmate. She says, my son has appendicitis, has to have surgery. The cruise is paid for. If somebody doesn't take it, it's just wasted. Would you like my ticket? So she went on this cruise, and Helene received a postcard from the Bahamas that said, I named it and claimed it. So this woman went on this free cruise, and she never would have imagined how that would have happened. Now it gets crazier. I recorded that on a Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was assisting Silva, the Silva method, with their 4-day intensive in Toronto. I'm a little bit turning into Helene Hadsel, because remember, she worked with Jose Silva. I'm working with Stephen Dobosh. It's crazy how everyone's tied in. He actually learned from Laszlo. Oh, I'm going to butcher his last name. I don't have his last name in my head. Who trained with Jose, who went over to Hungary, and Stephen learned from him, and Helene knew Laszlo. I know, it's no accident that I'm doing all this stuff. Anyway, I'm helping with the 4-day intensive. We're working on the Silva method. There's lots of meditation. There's lots of visualization. Saturday, I get a text from a friend. She says, hey, do you want to go on a cruise? I'm like, I'd love to, but I'm recording the Audible books. That's where all my funds are going right now, because, I'm paying for studio time. And she says, it's free. Her boyfriend had broken his leg like 6 months earlier. They pushed the cruise as far as they could forward, but he still couldn't take the time off work because he used it all when he was sick or at home recouping with his leg. He's fine now. Just to let everyone know, he's okay. He's good. He went on another cruise later. But the June one just wasn't going to work because he'd already had taken time for being sick and had another cruise booked. So she says he can't go. He broke his leg, and the ticket's free. I'm like, what do I have to do? She goes, can you get to Miami? I'm like, I can get to Miami. I will figure out how to get to Miami. So I literally spoke. And then what was crazier was there's about a bazillion different cruises out there. This one went to Miami, Puerto Plata, Bimini, the Bahamas, and then back to Miami. So I remember the day we got to the Bahamas, and first of all, it's the bluest water I've ever seen next to Bora Bora. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I did not win that. That was long before I started winning. And I just kept walking around like on the beach that day, gobsmacked, because I had spoken like 6 weeks earlier. I'd spoken about going on a cruise to the Bahamas, and I literally was standing on the beach in the Bahamas. It was so perfect. It was amazing. And I'd never been on a cruise before, and I went with a friend, which was so nice. So yeah, and actually we're probably going to cruise again in the future. I said, well, I have a lot of books to do next year. Let me see where I am at in the spring. And I'll let you know if I can get away for another week. But I literally spoke it into existence. So I highly recommend that if you have books that you like with manifesting. I know Benny here, I had interviewed him. Go watch my interview with him. He has these great books out. I have to admit, I haven't read his second one because it's Spirituality for Blokes. I know it's for everybody, and it's just titled for blokes because it's getting more men involved in this because there's more women than men. I know because I can tell by my stats on all my social channels. It's 75% women, 25% men. So he's talking to the men that need to start coming over to, trusting their heart, etc. Highly recommend you go check him out. Love him on TikTok, by the way. So many good gems of wisdom that he posts. That's how I found him. And then, I just had a brain hiccup. Oh yeah. And then anyway, his first book, it's a great short little one. Read it out loud. So when you read these books, read them out loud and you will notice how they hit different. Lindsay has a long one. I'm not going to put it up because it's going to take so much of the screen, but she says, talking about the lottery. So I visualized my winning 100 million in the Powerball. Ooh, good. My intuition gave me the numbers on the exact night. It hit 100 million, but it was before I knew about manifestation and intuition. I didn't trust myself when I picked different numbers. Oh, the one thing you didn't say, Lindsay, was, did the numbers you were given the ones that were picked? And actually, I had something similar happen. This has to be 10 years ago. I dreamt the lottery numbers and I kept trying to remember them. Like, when you're in that half-wake state, and I'm like, I have to go get a ticket. I have to go get a ticket. And then I got busy and I'm thinking, and the lottery came and went. Like, it was like 3 days. I should have gone to get a ticket. And I don't 100% remember, but I have this horrid feeling that they were the winning numbers that I didn't buy a ticket for. For gosh sakes, if you dream about the lottery, buy a ticket. Oh, and she says, they were. And it was her birthday numbers. I know. This is the one thing I tell people, and I know this from my other experience, not 100 million experience. It was trust your intuition. It's always right. Oh, it makes me sick. I can't even. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Lindsay. I know, right? Ask them for some numbers. Ask the universe for some numbers again. Even if it's $1 million, it might make you feel a little better. Oh, dear. Yeah. You have to, you know what the point of that is? Trust your intuition. Like, it wouldn't have cost her, what's a ticket? $2, $5, depends on the lottery. Some are $1, right? If she bought the ticket, if it was wrong, okay, let's just say she was wrong and the numbers were wrong. She had like a crazy dream and the numbers weren't right. Worst case, she would have lost $5. Oh, well, doesn't matter. She gave it a shot. Best case, she would have won. Yes, you have to. Oh, no, she says it hasn't come back to her. Yes, you have to take inspired action. Joe Vitale, who Helene loved. If you watch any of his interviews, you will see that he does talk about that. Take inspired action. Jack Canfield says the universe leaves clues. All of a sudden, I'm thinking that might not have been him. The universe leaves clues, and you take inspired action. Sonia Cochette talks about this in her book, Ask Your Guides. When you're following your intuition, like one time she had this urge. She was going somewhere. She was driving, and she had this urge to turn right. She's like, why do I have this urge to turn right? So she just followed her intuition, and she was driving down the street, and then she saw a toddler that had gotten out of the house. Those little, their little squirrel. You turn your back 1 second, they're gone. And this toddler had gotten out of the house, and she could see the little one running down the street, thinking, oh my gosh, this little one's going to get hit by a car. So she went and, scooped up the child, and the mother came, not far behind, frantic, looking for this child. But she had intercepted the child first and kept the child safe. And she just followed her intuition. She's like, why do I want to turn right now? This is bizarre. But she was meant to be there to just save this little one, keep them out of harm's way before they got into traffic, because the mother was too far behind to catch up. That, it could have been a tragedy. And she just followed her intuition. Take inspired action. You have an intuition. I should apply for that job. I should get on that dating app. I should, I should start painting again. I should, whatever it is, even if it sounds illogical. I remember, this is how even small it is sometimes. I remember maybe 20 years ago, like this is a long time ago, getting ready to go to a friend's house for a barbecue. And I had this great shirt with this piped collar and things. And I pull it out of the closet, summer barbecue. So it had like, it was sleeveless and a little tie thing. It was so cute. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to wear this. And in my head, I thought, if you wear that, the baby is going to throw up on you. I thought, that's the stupidest thing. Where did that come from? So I put on my outfit. Sure enough, the little guy just chucks all over me, like to the point where it's not like a little wipe off. I mean, I need to change. I ended up borrowing a shirt from, my friend, because I was just covered in spit up. And I thought, I knew that. I should have brought a backup shirt. Like I knew before I left for the barbecue that I was going to get thrown up on by the baby. Who thinks that? Even if it's crazy or illogical, follow it. Andrea has one here. I'm ready for another book on manifestation. If you have a must read, I must share. I'm already currently reading Creating Money and Attracting Abundance by Shauna Roman. Let me see if this comment is small enough to fit on the screen. Oh, it does cut my head off a little bit. If you have a must read, please share. I have so many. It's a real shame you can't see, and I've hit it behind here, and I'll tell you why. So this office, when I first moved in with George, he had the living room was this weird kind of blue, and he had some Toronto Maple Leafs memorabilia up. And I'm like, I'm not moving into a man cave. So let's decorate the office. I thought, this is neutral and the blue background, because I made him go to Home Depot and get the official Toronto Maple Leafs blue. And I thought, blue background for filming would be great. Then I kept winning NHL.com gift cards. So I kept going and getting all this Toronto Maple Leaf memorabilia. I'd go to their sales section and I'd max out these cards, right, when they had like the discount code for free shipping. And then I'd get stuff 50% off or 70% off. And then, so this office is covered in Toronto Maple Leafs memorabilia. Then I won a big monster bump box. And it is as wide as the filing cabinet. It weighs 100 pounds. It has a strap. It's basically the biggest Bluetooth speaker you'd ever want. You can plug in a thing. So that's behind me. And so there's this is not a great background for recording. If you go to some of my older Contest Queen videos where I'm just sitting at my desk using my computer webcam, you can see all the stuff, and it's gotten more. Then what happened is I inherited all of Helene's stuff. and all of Tag's stuff. I have some of their library. So now I've got stacks of Rubbermaid bins because this office is so small. I have no space. And in those bins, so I have all my books in bins, all Helene's books in bins, all of Tag's books in bins. in bins. And one of my goals is to eventually have a library. So when I'm doing these streams and someone goes, do you have a good book on that? I can actually stand up and go, oh, this is one of my favorites, and pull it out. But I love all of Joe Vitale's works. I don't know if you've read The Attractor Factor. It's an oldie but a goodie. Like Helene even read that one. Like that's how long it's been out. It's a good classic. I really like, again, Andrew Capps, The Law of Attraction, the last Law of Attraction book you ever need to read. Now, the one thing I will caution you, now I find this very interesting because I've done a lot of work with Robert Ohotto. Now, his book isn't a manifestation book, but it's the one that changed my life, and that was Transforming Fate into Destiny. The title should give you a clue, and it's Ohotto, O-H-O-T-T-O. I'm going to have to make a list of everything I talked about and put it all in the in the description after we're done. So those ones are good. Let's see, who else do I really like off the top of my head? And actually, Helene read it, and I liked it. It was Florence Scovel Shinn's If Life is a Game, Here's How to Play It. There's a book out there. I haven't read it yet, but I want to get it. And it's called, now in Contact with Other Realms, Helene had these points to ponder in her book. And I thought she was so wise. And then I found out they were an adaptation of the ancient Sanskrit. So I was watching a YouTube video with Robert Edward Grant, who also is amazing. He was talking about these old Sanskrit tablets that had the rules for being human. And he started to read them off, and they were the points to ponder. And I thought, uh-oh, Helene didn't give credit to the ancient Sanskrit people for this. So I had to update her book. So the first editions of In Contact with Other Realms didn't have. And then when I found it out, I fixed it and uploaded a new file to Amazon. So if you just downloaded it, you have the newer version. But then, and the reason where she got them was somebody had written them as anonymous in a Chicken Soup for the Soul book by Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. And I can't remember the author's name, but then she took the book. It's in the file. And she wrote a book called, she took those points and she wrote a book called If Life is a Game, Here Are the Rules. But I don't think she realized they were from ancient Sanskrit either. But they're rules to being human. Here, you know what? Actually, they're quite good. They might actually help you with manifesting because it kind of puts things into perspective. So here are the points to ponder. When we choose to be born, and most souls choose their parents, we receive a body. We may like it or hate it, but it will be yours for as long as you live in this dimension. How you take care of it or fail to take care of it can make an enormous difference in the quality of your life. You will learn many lessons. Yay! For you have enrolled in a full-time informal school called Life in the Physical. Each day you will be presented with opportunities to learn what you need to know. Not what you want to know, what you need to know. The lessons presented are often completely different from those you think you need. There are no mistakes, only lessons. Growth comes from a process of experimentation and trial and error. You will often find you learn more from failure than you do for success. Mind you, I do like the success. I have to admit that. A lesson is repeated until it is learned. How many times have all of us had that happen to us? Why does this keep happening to me over and over again? Because you haven't learned the lesson yet. When you have learned it, as evidenced by a change in your attitude and ultimately your behavior, then you can go on to the next lesson. Learning never ends. As long as you live, there will be something more to learn. So yeah, when you think, how long till this ends? It doesn't. There is no better than here. You will simply discover another there that will look better than your here. Don't be fooled into believing that the unattainable is better than what you have. Why? Because you are always present in the there and here. That's the one I think is for manifesting. Because a lot of people think, well, when I get the job, my life will be better. My problems will be solved. When I get the new partner, my money will start. When I win the lottery, my life will be better. That, it's just a whole new set of problems. I think she might say that in the next one. No, but it's a whole new set of problems. So you say, oh, I want to win a house. Okay. Or I want to buy a house. You buy a house. Only win a house too. You get the house. Well, now you got to take care of the lawn. You got to heat it. You got to insure it. You got to make sure you have electricity. You have to clean it. There's all these things that now occur. So if you went from like a small apartment to a mansion, there's a whole new set of things that you have to do. It's a whole new set of problems that you might not be prepared for. Right? So just think of that. This is another good one. Others are merely mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate anything about another person unless it reflects something you love or hate about yourself. When tempted to criticize others, ask yourself why you feel so strongly. What you make of life is up to you. You have all the tools and resources you need. What you create with those tools and resources is up to you. So I heard somebody talk about this and say, imagine there's a table of crafting tools. Like there's everything from clay to paint to paper to pens to markers to crayons to glue to, you name it, it's on the table. And you can come along and pick up a lot of like random bits and put them together and it looks like nothing. And then someone else comes along and goes, take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And they make this beautiful piece of art. You're like, wow. And it's like, but you guys had the exact same, you're like, oh, well, their life is so much better because look at the art they made. You had the same tools. You just chose not to use them that way. Everyone has the same tools. So yeah, it's all about the tools. So let me just recap before we finish up today. So SPEC is select it and be specific. P is project it. So that's visualize. It's up in the head. And you can write it down. Like visualizing, you can do a vision board. You can journal it. Lots of different ways to visualize it. Expect it is feel like it's already happened, live in the end result, and put energy towards it. Okay. A lot of people say, well, I want to be wealthy if I just start living in the end result and spending money I don't have. No, it's not about spending the money you don't have. It's about feeling the way you would feel if you spent the money. And, watch your words too, because I was talking about speaking it into existence. Don't say I can't afford it. It's not my budget right now. I'm choosing to focus my money elsewhere at the moment, but when I'm ready, I will buy that. Okay. And then C is collect it. Be open to whatever it looks like. Because it may not look the way you think. Right? I envisioned my first cruise with George. I ended up going with one of my best friends. I had a ball. Right? I didn't know what my first cruise was going to look like. And I was pleasantly surprised. So don't limit what the end result looks like. Because when Colette Baron-Reid in January does her vision board, she does an annual. This is a good time to tell everybody this. In January, Colette Baron-Reid does a free vision board class on Facebook. And then she puts it in her membership because she uses it as a membership drive. And so you have like a few days to watch each video and then she takes them down. And then if you want to review them, you have to sign up for her membership. And what she always says you put at the bottom This or something better for the highest good of all. Thank you. So whenever you're visualizing this or something better, don't limit the universe, because you say, I want to have a job and I make $10,000 a month. What if the universe has a job for you that's $20,000 a month? You just cut it in half. So don't limit it. Say, this is what I would like, but it can get bigger. So this or something better for the highest good of all, because let's face it, all boats rise with the tide. Why not bring everybody up with us that we can? And thank you, because gratitude is where it's at. And actually, if I should find the Listen Notes podcast, I think Robert Ohado has one out there floating around called How to Be Grateful. Actually, he might have a YouTube video, How to Feel Grateful When You're Not Feeling Grateful, because they all talk about gratitude as one of the keys to manifestation. But sometimes you're just like, seriously, I'm supposed to be grateful for this mess? Yes. And here's how to feel grateful when you don't feel grateful. And so, yeah, this or something better. Oh, Chola says, my birthday is January 8th. Mine is the 9th. It's nice to meet a fellow Capricorn. And on that note, we're going to end, and I'm going to be back next month. One of the things that I'm working on for 2024, one of my other goals that I'm going to be focusing on, is to start bringing in more guests and having guests every month on this channel. So it's not just me talking about manifestation. I want to have some awesome teachers, because I copied all my old interviews from Contest Queen with these amazing teachers and put them on here. And I did have Benny the coach on as my first guest. And then I kept publishing books and I didn't have any more guests ever. So we're going to fix that for 2024. We're going to have all kinds of interesting guests talking about all kinds of different manner of the law of manifestation, the positive thinking, mindset, all those kind of woo-woo things that I just love. Anyway, thanks very much for tuning in. I'm going to do what all those YouTubers say. If you like this, smash that like button and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a single video. See, now that feels silly saying it, but I'm going to say it until it's natural. Until next time.